Critical for the moment for Alumim is to make sure that we have a safe place to live, and that is the rapid response team and the security needs for them. There are a lot of things that we need. The things that are needed now, important things that are going to save lives, are protective equipment. There are still people from the unit who are taking shifts, living on the kibbutz. They don't sleep in their houses. They sleep in the command center on mattresses. And they're there in order to make sure that there is a presence of Alumim people on Alumim, because that is our land. We're holding it and we will come back to it. The Kitat Kononut and the volunteers who are maintaining the dairy herd are the people that are there on a day-to-day basis. There's also a lot of army there. So what we need is tactical equipment, and I've sent you a list of the tactical and protective equipment that we need. Enhance and enlarge the ability for us to have more observation posts, not only posts, but cameras, and so that they can interconnect together with the observation center. I've sent you a specific list of the equipment that we need to ensure the security for both for the residents and also for the Kitat Kononut. Okay, Alumim was set up as a Bnei Akiva kibbutz. Alumim is currently comprised of approximately 800 people who live there. 60% are young people under the age of 60. There are 163 children. We have a very big dairy farm. It's the third best dairy farm in Israel. In 2021, we built a new dairy complex at the cost of about 40 million shekels, which we financed on our own. That unfortunately was burnt on the 7th of October, burnt to the ground. We still have 350 cows that are giving milk. We have a very big farm of chicken runs, which provide chicken meat. We have very big avocado orchards, citrus orchards. We grow potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots, corn, sometimes cotton. We plowed our fields until the 6th of October, right up to the border. From the 7th of October onwards, we are not allowed to go into our fields because they have been booby-trapped and mined. Most of Israel's food supply comes from the northwestern Negev. Kibbutz Kfar Aza, Kibbutz Nachal Oz, then it's us, Alumim, then it's Kibbutz Be'eri, got Kisufim near Oz, near Am, and the other kibbutzim and moshavim that are further south. The kibbutzim originally in that area were set up in order to hold the land on the border. And as the army couldn't put groups of soldiers onto each kibbutz took it on themselves to set up a local security unit. Most of the kibbutzim have between 8 and 13, 14 people on each unit. The units are totally voluntary. Only the head of the unit gets a minimal salary from the Department of Defense, the Ministry of Defense. That person is called the Rabshatz. Most of the people on Alumim's Kitat Kononut are people who are mid-ranking officers in combat units. The government wanted to come and take away the long machine guns. He found all sorts of reasons not to give them. The government tried to take them away from most of the kibbutzim because they were worried about them being stolen. And there was a big problem of them being stolen. But Eyal took it on himself to make sure that each member would know exactly where their guns were, and he carried out a number of checks to make sure that everyone had their guns. In addition, just 2 months prior to the 7th of October, they held a very big exercise, which very much was similar to what in fact happened. And everyone said to him, "Oh, Eyal, you're completely crazy. This kind of thing could never happen." And he insisted on carrying out this drill. So we have a very complex and well-equipped command center where the person in charge of giving the orders to people, where to go, what to see, what's happening, was very well staffed with cameras. We knew who was coming in and when. Unfortunately, that and the cameras also were totally destroyed. Like these things generally start with a barrage of rockets, 6:30 in the morning, a barrage of rockets. We knew it was different because of the intensity. Generally, the rockets would go on for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes. You'd have maybe 10, 11 alarms. And when I say an alarm, we generally hear the alarm after the rocket has fallen because we're so close to the border. So it's called the red alert alarm. So most people hear red alert. It's said 3 times red alert, red alert, red alert. And then you hear the boom. On Alumim, it's boom, red alert, boom. The rockets fall very, very close one to the other. This time we knew it was different because of the intensity, the quantity, and then it went scarily quiet, and then all of a sudden there was the sound of machine gun fire. As soon as these things started, Kitat Kononut, and again the patrol units, sent out a message to everyone, even though it was Shabbat. Rapid response, community response teams, most of them have their own personal armament at home. They probably have a pistol, but no one has a long gun at home. When I say a long gun, I mean a machine gun. That is kept in the armory. So the order went out for all the people, the 12 people in the Kitat Kononut, to go towards the armory and to collect their guns, and for everyone else to lock themselves in their safe room. Safe room is called a mamad. People were locked in their mamad for between 27 to 32 hours on Alumim. They could hear shooting outside. The alarm was raised by our people slightly at something like 6:26 or something like that, when a couple in their 60s decided to go for their usual morning walk around the outskirts of the kibbutz. They walked out of their house. They live right on the edge of the kibbutz, and they started hearing strange noises like a whirring noise. The man called Merika looked up into the sky, and he saw these drones, like these tractor drones that were flying in. And he told his wife to run back to the house, and he phoned the Rav Shatzayal and said to him, something is going on. And less than half a minute later, all hell broke loose with the rockets coming in. So they had like maybe a minute or 2 minutes notice that something was happening before the other kibbutzim in the area knew what was going on. Came towards the back gate, as one of the people said, riding on motorcycles, 2 on a motorcycle each, with their machine guns pointed in the air, with their bandanas on their heads. They came towards the back gate, which was locked, and they blew out the lock on the black gate with a RPG. Some of the terrorists who came in, they came towards the cow sheds, the dairy herd cow sheds, where we have Nepali and Thai workers who help us with the milking. They have their own safe rooms. They were told to go into their safe rooms. The terrorists came and they butchered them. We have telephone recordings of them phoning the people in the kibbutz saying, boss, Gaza here, come help. They butchered, and I say butchered, they didn't just kill, they butchered 19 Thai and Nepali workers. One of them was taken captive. 6 of them survived. One of them survived by climbing into the crawl space between the roof and the ceiling of the building he was in. But when they set the building on fire, he started to choke, and he remembered that they have saline drips for the cows. So he managed to pull a saline drip up, and he kept on using it. He punctured it and used it to clean his face and keep himself sort of hydrated until help came about 30 hours later. Okay, there were 8 incursions at various times through the day until about 1 o'clock when the army arrived, 8 spaced out incursions. There were 78 bodies of terrorists found on the kibbutz. 4 of our kibbutz rapid response team members were injured. One of them seriously injured. He had 3 bullet wounds in his back that punctured his lungs. Thank God they're all okay. We have 2 members of the kibbutz who fell in battle. One of them, as soon as the rocket started, put on his uniform. It went towards the command center in Kibbutz Re'im, and he was killed fighting there. The other one was on the rapid response unit on the next door kibbutz on Kfar Aza, and he also fell in battle. And there was another son of the kibbutz members who was killed last Friday in Gaza. And that's the time also to remember them and say, may their memories be for a blessing, which is not an easy thing to internalize. Kibbutz Be'eri and Alumim have been sort of brother and sister kibbutzim. In most ways, we're totally different. We're religious, they're not religious. They've got their big factory that prints in Israel we said prints the money. They print all the local government bills, they print all the government bills, they print all the checks that most of the banks use. But a very big company called Dfus Be'eri, which is Be'eri Printing. Some of our members work there. We're an agricultural community. We're smaller, we're less well off, but there's always been a very strong bond between us. Approximately 10 years ago, our Rabbi Kula, decided to set up together with their culture team a joint shul. And that was very unusual because for a non-religious kibbutz to set up a shul didn't go down well with everyone in Be'eri, but the majority wanted it. And on a kibbutz, the majority rules. So they set up a nice little shul, and the people from Alumim used to walk over there 3 or 4 times a year to make up a minyan and make the shul a proper shul. A while ago, we donated a Sefer Torah there. And for the last 10 years, every Simchat Torah, a group of about 15, sometimes 20 men and women would walk over in the morning of Simchat Torah. They'd walk over to Be'eri and they'd have the services there. They also do it on Yom Kippur, and they also used to do it on Rosh Hashanah. And also our people would help them carry out weddings. There were Jewish weddings with our rabbi. And it's a very interesting, it's an interesting combination of living together, of coexistence between people who have very, very different belief systems, but we still are one people. And some of our people were there during October the 7th. The nurse in Be'eri who hid in a cupboard is the daughter of Alumim members, Nirit.
Normally, you go to the kibbutz on that morning every year. This year decided not to, right?
This year they went on the Friday night. Who can explain it? This year, otherwise they would have been leaving, walking that 2.5 kilometers along the 232 towards Be'eri at 6:30 in the morning. This year, for some reason, they decided to do it on Friday night, like a fully bomb-proof area where most of the kibbutz could gather. Because, for example, we've had occasions where it's been a Chag or a Yontif, and people have been together in the dining room. Our dining room's a beautiful dining room, but it's got all glass windows, which is now not a great thing. So you can come back, we will rebuild, but we need to feel safe there first. So I'm looking at priorities, and then we can look at a wish list later on. People have been allowed to go back in bits and bobs to their houses on Alumim for something like 45 minutes at a time and collect their clothing, because luckily, apart from one person where the terrorists did get into one house, the rest of the houses are still standing. Like we do very, very often, think of those who lost their lives, who are not as lucky as we are. I can't tell you how, in the midst of all this darkness and suffering, we feel that even though our lives are not easy now, we've got it 1,000,000 times better than those whose families and friends and loved ones are in the tunnels in Gaza, and those who have lost their family and their loved ones. And I think that it's so important to keep them in our mind's eye as much as we can. We're all traumatized, but those people are far more traumatized than we are. Most of the people in Be'eri aren't going to go back there. I know, I've spoken to them. They're our neighbors. Anyone with young kids is not going to put their children to sleep in a place like that. Maybe it'll be a few kilometers down the line. Maybe they'll move the actual factory. Alumim will stay where it is. For example, I can tell you that Kibbutz Kfar Aza is currently living in Shfaim, but you can't transplant 800 people into and add them to a current community and say, well, you're sort of part of them, but you're not really. And Kfar Aza have it much worse than we are. In addition to all the trauma they went through, they're a completely privatized kibbutz. So everyone there has got, for example, mortgages on their burnt out houses. How are they going to pay for them? Where are they going to work? That's like horrendous things that we don't, thank God we don't have to deal with that.
Right.
Be'eri is a kibbutz like us, one of the 17 non-privatized kibbutz, that the kibbutz takes complete financial control over all the infrastructure. So that's less of a problem. Nachal Oz has got a great startup part, and there's all sorts of optic high-tech things that have been set up there. That's now gone. Where are they going to set them up? Who's going to pay their money? I don't know. But from the point of view of coming back to live, I know that Be'eri, Kfar Aza, Nir Oz have been offered for 3 years to stay in these places, whether it'll be 2.5 or 3.5 or 1.5. At the moment, the government is saying 3 years. If I need things that are for the entire community, things like safety, things like, long-term safety and protection, that's what we need to help the people hold on to Alumim and keep it safe. The cow barn, where you see that sort of roof that goes like that, that's been burnt, that's where all the hay for the winter was. There's now no hay for the winter. We have to buy fodder for the animals. I would like to really thank you all, everyone in Am Yisrael, the Jewish people all over who are coming together and helping us in this horrendous hour of need. Please God, no one should ever know anything like this in their lives. The people from One People are incredibly kind and generous. We would so much like to host anyone that does come to Israel. We can show you around Alumim. We can explain to you what we're talking about, but we can show you around. Sometimes seeing something makes a huge difference. So we invite you to come to Alumim, whether it be now or whether it be, please God, when we get back to Alumim as a community. It's a lovely place and very nice people. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
So thank you so much to all of you at One People, and thank you to all your donors.
Thank you very much, Susan.